Thanks for joining us for CBS News Detroit at 7. We're streaming live on the CBS News app and on Pluto TV. I'm Jeff Skaversky. We begin tonight with the investigation into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Special counsel Jack Smith is leading the probe, and it does extend beyond Donald Trump's actions that day. But Smith reportedly wants to understand what the former president was thinking on January 6th, 2021. Among the charges being considered, deprivation of rights, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., and witness tampering. Joining us now to discuss this situation is political strategist Jamie Roe, who specializes in conservative, forward-looking public policy, and Adolph Mongo, political advisor and historian. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, Jamie, let's begin with you this evening. The Republicans' defense to this investigation, the words Trump literally said on January 6th, with, among things, were to go home. Do you think that will be able to stand under such scrutiny right now?
Yeah, we'll see. I have thought that the January 6th was probably where he faced the most legal peril, simply because of how traumatic it was on everybody in our country that day. I spent 13 years working on Capitol Hill, and that was a tough day for those of us who think so highly of our Capitol and our process and so forth. And he's going to have some interesting questions to ask when it comes to his actions on January 6th. I thought they were delayed in sending up support, and I think he was delayed in telling people that it was time to go home. And the first statement that he released, I thought, was wholly inadequate. Now, does it rise to the level of criminal activity? That's the high bar that Jack Smith's going to have to cross. And I don't know that he can get there. But we'll find out.
I mean, there's obviously, you debate either side of it. You can see potentially some see it one way, some see it another. Adolph, how do you see what was said that day on January 6th?
Well, I lived in D.C. I served in the Marine Corps, and to see some of these folks, they were veterans, they were police officers. They had Confederate flags. They had American flags. They was beating up the police and stuff. And this guy could have stopped it, because he geeked them up. They were out there, and they had a right to come. They wanted to protest. They came to D.C., etc. But to storm the Capitol and did what they did, he has to deal with it. He might have to pay the price. Now, all this other stuff, okay, New York, okay, we'll see what's going to happen there. But this is real serious, and I don't think it's a laughing matter. You know, Trump he's real slick. You know, he's running, and his base, they love him. But it's not going to help him in the long run. I think he's going to win the nomination for the Republicans.
Well, he's leading in the polls right now, despite everything going on. I mean, there's literally 5 trials that he's facing.
If I was a consultant for some of these candidates, man, we would be beating up on Trump forever. I don't understand it. Ron DeSantis came with all great fanfare, coming in. They say, this is the guy that's going to take him out. He's been a wimp. You know, Pence, he's dead in the water. The only people that's beating him up is Hutchinson and Chris Christie. They have no chance of winning the nomination. So Trump has got a clear road to the nomination. And what's going to happen in Georgia? She's just waiting. I asked somebody today, what is the prosecutor in Georgia going to do? Is she going to put the icing on the cake? Man, this is some crazy times.
Jamie, as we talk about January 6th, as a Republican, do you believe that Trump contributed to what happened at the Capitol on that day?
I think the whole Stop the Steal campaign that they engaged in after the election contributed to what happened at the Capitol that day. And I think that I think the President Trump probably truly believed that the election was stolen from him. There was arbitrary changes to laws across the country on how absentee ballots were used and so forth that were unprecedented in American history. Of course, the COVID pandemic was fairly unprecedented in American history as well during a time of an election. But there were others, I think, who use it as a grift, to be quite honest with you, which I think is unconscionable. I accept the outcome of the election. President Biden was elected in November of 2020, and we have to live with, we lose sometimes, and we have to live with it. And I think they found it very difficult to live with, and I think that they do bear some responsibility for what happened that day. Now, whether that rises to the level of some crime against the nation that requires you to be thrown in prison is a different story. Now, I look at that, how close this focus is on January 6th, and then I look at the news that we've had over the last several months about the Biden family influence peddling that's been going on.
We're going to get into all of that.
Weigh those two.
But you know what? It was funny. We look at 2000 when Gore versus Bush, and I know I was one of those people say Bush stole the election, went to the Supreme Court, but nobody went to D.C. No Democrats went to D.C. to burn up the Capitol and say, oh, you know what? Bush didn't really win, that he didn't get it stolen in Florida. All I heard was people saying, well, Gore didn't have his troops on the ground in Florida. They miscalculated. They didn't do what they supposed to do. Trump, oh, they stole it from us. Listen, I've been in Detroit a long time. And I remember when Clyde Cleveland ran against McNamara. McNamara went to bed, county exec, thought he lost. Woke up, there was all these spoiled ballots from the city of Detroit clerk. Now people saying, oh, what happened? So we understand when people get upset and say, well, there's some funny stuff going on. There's always some funny stuff going on in elections. But you sending people to storm the Capitol, to beat people up, to assault folks, etc. Now, you know, Trump, he has to pay the piper. And right now, he needs to be indicted for that.
And he very well could be. We don't know how this is going to turn out. This is still under an investigation, and there is said to be thousands of pieces of evidence that are potentially, you know, being looked at here. So do you believe that there will be a conviction?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we know what the charges are going to be yet. I think the most interesting
we laid out some of them. We talked about some of them there.
Yeah, but I think the most interesting thing here is who's going to be on the witness list. And I think one of the people who's going to be on there is Vice President Pence. And what does Vice President Pence have to say about the interactions that he had with the president? I know that he has spoken to the grand jury out there in D.C., and what did he have to say? Because that is going to be interesting. But there's a lot of people who got to answer questions for the failings that allowed what happened on January 6th to happen. That should have never been allowed to happen. Why did Nancy Pelosi not accept National Guard troops coming in to assist with security at the Capitol that day, as President Trump apparently had offered?
Isn't that Trump? Trump called in the Army for Black Lives Matter protests, but he didn't call in anything.
They offered to do it, and Nancy Pelosi and the folks at the Capitol turned it down.
You know what?
As
I
did
don't know if you
DC.
old enough to remember in '67 when they was burning down 12th Street, and George Romney, a Republican, asked President Johnson for federal troops. He said, put it in writing. Right. Politics is politics. Right. And so Trump was playing politics that day. It just backfired on him.
Well, we will continue this conversation. First, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I don't know if there's been a better time to start a brand new news operation.
The newsroom was pretty much starting from scratch.
It's fresh, it's innovative.
Lots of energy, lots of passionate reporters.
Knowing what we're starting here puts so much joy in my heart.
We have reporters who are embedded in these communities.
Many people throughout St. Clair Shores have been fighting to save this water tower.
If there's a miracle out there, get a hold of me.
We are part of the neighborhood. Our newsroom is part of your neighborhood.
Residents here on Stansbury say they are fed up with all this flooding that keeps happening.
We shouldn't have to live like this.
telling the stories that otherwise nobody would know about. Now, AJ, you went to the downtown boxing gym, and you really got to see how this gym is impacting kids' lives.
Yeah, Chris, as soon as I walked in the building, it was very uplifting.
It's a boxing gym, but it's more than boxing. You know, we do homework. We help them with the SAT.
When it comes to the weather, it's forecasting what's going to fall on your driveway, when is it going to happen, and how might it actually affect your day-to-day life.
Hundreds of people continue to call in reporting problems throughout the county.
Cleanup crews working all throughout Metro Detroit.
Get them down and get them cleaned up.
Local news to me means we're in your community, we're telling stories that matter to you, that affect you, that maybe we can get change and things done in your community.
She was born without a right arm, and then her legs didn't grow, I guess, the way that they should have.
But for 20-year-old Fortin High School alum Sumaya, she doesn't let that, or anything else for that matter, get in her way.
So you have a favorite button over there?
Yeah, you want to is it?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and...
This is my favorite.
I hope everyone watching that piece in particular says, I want to help that little girl and help that family and help get her to college.
Well, we are rethinking the way local news is done in the 21st century and how to tell the most important stories in a compelling way.
You can get news anywhere, but for us, we're a fresh face with a new perspective, and we're trying to make a difference in the community to tell stories that matter to you.
I think we're here to listen and actually hear what you're saying, and we're putting together a newscast that will show that.
I want to tell those people's stories because it's needed. Detroit is ready. Get ready, because here we come.
Reporting in Dearborn Heights.
Live in Wayne County.
Reporting in Adrian.
Live in Livonia.
Reporting from South Lyon, Kelly Vaughn.
CBS News Detroit.
You're watching CBS News Detroit.
Before the break, we broke down the latest in the January 6th investigation into former President Donald Trump. Now we're going to turn our attention to how this could impact potentially his race to be reelected. The former president could be fighting over 5 trials while the campaign trail continues for Trump. Let's take a look. On your screen in the red is the key GOP campaign dates. The blue is Trump's current trial schedule. As of today, he is facing 5 legal battles, 3 civil and 2 criminal, before Americans head to the polls in November 2024. As it stands, he is set to be in court in New York the day of the Iowa caucuses, and this calendar could become even more hectic if he's indicted in the January 6th investigation or the Georgia 2020 election interference case. Jamie Roe and Adolph Mongo are still with us tonight. Gentlemen, despite all of this legal trouble, Trump is still leading in the early polls for the Republican nomination. Is this surprising? What does this say about what is going on in our country?
The guy got a base. It's like going to a picnic. He got his food. He's bringing it. And then the other people that's coming to the picnic, they want to eat, but they didn't bring anything to the table. These Republicans, I've never seen a bunch of weak candidates in my life, because when you got somebody that got 4, 5, whatever indictments that's coming down, that been impeached twice, that lost a sexual harassment case, and you still can't take him out, and then you defended him. Prime example, Gil Hill. I helped Gil Hill run for mayor 2001 against Kwame Kilpatrick. We was beating up Kwame Kilpatrick with these ads. Gil Hill come out on TV saying, you know what, I could vote for Kwame Kilpatrick because I like him. He's a nice young man. Just killed the campaign.
Now,
you know what?
Now, Trump has denied any wrongdoing. He said he has done nothing wrong in any of these scenarios. So, look, until he's convicted in court, it's essentially allegations.
But you know it don't. Listen, somebody throw dirt at you. We got people kicked out of office for less than what they done to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he got some staying power. And you talk about Teflon Don. The man is he's a bad dude. But if he's the nominee, Republicans gonna lose all the way down.
Jamie, as a Republican, are you surprised that Trump continues to lead these polls right now for the Republican nomination with all of this going on?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm surprised. I think perhaps a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, how people look at it right now is it's unjust. What the charges, all these charges that are being brought against President Trump are unjust, and it's an unequal, it's a two-tiered system of justice.
But we've never seen this. This stuff is unprecedented. So we've
Agreed.
never seen
this. It is
this.
unprecedented, which is another reason why I think people are sticking with him, because they think what is happening is wrong. They watched Hillary Clinton as she destroyed 30,000 emails that were under subpoena, destroyed computers, phones, bleach bit, the whole 9 yards, and not anything happens to her.
And why do you think
they watch what happens right now with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden? The laptop, which the FBI had verified, but they come out in advance of the election and call it Russian disinformation, which was simply untrue. And the fact of the matter is there are serious implications always for Republicans, and there are no implications for Democrats. And that is what people see as the unequal.
Hillary lost 16. Hillary lost. The FBI was the deciding factor. Hunter Biden is not an elected official.
No, he's an influence peddler with his father.
Donald Nixon was the brother of Richard Nixon. Right. He was a criminal. Right. Billy Carter accepted money from Libya. Well, right. They always had relatives that did what they did. But listen, if y'all gonna run on Hunter Biden, no, because I call Joe Biden Grandpa. Right. Grandpa, y'all underestimated Joe Biden. Joe Biden been in the Senate, what, 40 years, 30 years, whatever.
50 years.
He understands the game. He's serious. Now, Donald Trump, Donald Trump been a Democrat, been a liberal, been conservative. Donald Trump been whatever is going to put money in Donald Trump's pocket. He's real smart. They paying him to pay his lawyers.
Yeah. Could either of you see a scenario where things stand today that Trump is facing 5 trials, that he could be reelected as president of the United States?
Yeah.
Do you think it'll come to that, where he could be reelected as president of the United States and on trial for 5 different court cases?
I personally,
I hope not.
I do, quite honestly, and I think the Democrats are pushing, and I think the Biden administration is pushing, praying that Trump is their opponent because they think he's easiest to beat. I'll tell you who else thought that.
Is he the easiest to beat?
I think that almost any other Republican that we have would beat Joe Biden, but I think Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden.
Not many, but there's a couple. But Hillary had issues. Hillary didn't campaign in Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They didn't come here. She lost Michigan
Spent a lot of money in Michigan.
Yeah, but not where she should have got 10,000 votes.
So speaking
of, got her 10,000 votes on the east side.
Well, speaking of Michigan, I mean, how do you think Trump would fare here in Michigan? I mean, obviously this is a battleground state.
One flew over the cuckoo nest. He got some nuts running the Republican Party. That chick should have a Netflix show because she out of her damn mind.
I'll tell you, I do not believe either Donald Trump or Joe Biden will be the nominees of the two parties.
Really?
In next year. I don't believe either one.
Who as a Democrat?
President somebody other than Joe
like
Biden,
who?
either
like
Gavin
who?
Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer would be my guess. But
Whitmer has not entered
and the reason being is that, number one, I think this corruption stuff with Joe Biden and the Biden family is real, and they're going to get to the bottom of it. And number two, he's just too darn old. Now, with Trump, it's going to be this death by 1,000 cuts that you showed.
He's old, too.
I agree. I think he's too old, too.
He's old.
But it's death by 1,000 cuts. At some point, it's going to get to be too much. That's why I think the debates this year, the Republican primary debates in particular, matter more than ever. And I'll just tell you, the guy to take a look at is Vivek Ramaswamy, who is 37-year-old Indian, successful businessman, and amazingly smart guy. But if anybody is set up to have a moment on a debate stage, it's Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think we're going to see it come about 4 weeks from now.
But you know, he's a hypocrite. He's he beats up on affirmative action. But ask him, why did he take $50,000 when he was at Yale, Harvard?
But look, is there a perfect?
Yes.
Is there a perfect human being? Is there a perfect candidate? You could make the argument that every human being in this world
there's no perfect.
has a flaw.
So don't beat up on something when you benefited from them. It's like Clarence Thomas, hate affirmative action, but that's how he got into Yale. That's how he got paid. I'm gonna just tell you, listen, that guy might be smart, and no question about it, but he's not moving anywhere.
Yes, he is. He's one of the candidates who is moving up. I think the two candidates right now on the Republican side to watch, watch, are Vivek Ramaswamy and Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. They are the two that are rising in the polls. Governor DeSantis is falling in the polls. And one thing in politics, when your trajectory is down, it's hard to get it back.
What was his problem? What you
DeSantis?
think? Yeah, tell me. What
I
you
would have
think
been
his
running
problem
on
was?
being the governor of Florida.
Right.
Is what I would have been doing, and
well,
I don't think,
smart.
and I don't
Even
think
though
he's
you
been,
went- even
because I
though-
think he's one of the best
even though-
governors in the country.
Even though you went to Michigan State, you smart on that one.
Yes,
I'm gonna tell you.
yes.
You know, DeSantis. This is not Florida,
Right.
and you can't whitewash history when you say, "Oh, that didn't happen. That didn't happen." You can't say that. Not gonna play. You know what? He's trying to take a page out of George Wallace's playbook. It's not going to work.
Well, we are not done with this conversation. We have much more coming up after the break with Jamie Roe and Adolph Mongo. Thank you.
I don't know if there's been a better time to start a brand new news operation.
The newsroom was pretty much starting from scratch.
It's fresh, it's innovative.
Lots of energy, lots of passionate reporters.
Knowing what we're starting here puts so much joy in my heart.
We have reporters who are embedded in these communities.
We are part of the neighborhood. Our newsroom is part of your neighborhood.
Telling the stories that otherwise nobody would know about. Now, AJ, you went to the downtown boxing gym and you really got to see how this gym is impacting kids' lives.
Yeah, Chris, as soon as I walked in the building, it was very uplifting.
It's a boxing gym, but it's more than boxing. You know, we do homework. We help them with the SAT.
When it comes to the weather, it's forecasting what's going to fall on your driveway, when is it going to happen, and how might it actually affect your day-to-day life.
Hundreds of people continue to call in reporting problems throughout the county.
Cleanup crews working all throughout Metro Detroit.
Get them down and get them cleaned up.
Local news to me means we're in your community, we're telling stories that matter to you, that affect you.
Well, we are rethinking the way local news is done in the 21st century and how to tell the most important stories in a compelling way.
Local news is all about letting people know what's happening in their community.
We're here to listen and actually hear what you're saying, and we're putting together a newscast that will show that.
I want to tell those people's stories because it's needed. Detroit is ready. Get ready, because here we come.
Welcome back. We continue the conversation for the race to the White House. Now that we turn to the Capitol Hill, where the other power struggle continues. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has presented his first spending bill since the debt ceiling deal earlier this summer. Yesterday, President Joe Biden threatened to veto them, accusing Speaker McCarthy of going back on his deal, saying his proposals will endanger critical services for the American people. Jamie and Adolph still with us here tonight. Axios reports that the Republicans privately are anticipating a spending fight to trigger a government shutdown. For both of you, how likely do you think this is here, that we could be facing another government shutdown over this whole situation?
Well, they playing chicken. You know what? I tell you, the speaker is, man, he's being held hostage by these folks in his party, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, etc. He got about 3 or 4 different factions that, you know, if he doesn't do the right thing, you know, he's not going to be speaker. They elect somebody else.
Regardless of party, having worked on Capitol Hill for 13 years in the U.S. House of Representatives, I can tell you end of the year spending fights are always fraught with danger. And particularly when you have as closely divided a House as you have right now, getting the spending bill across the finish line is going to be difficult, simply because the two parties are just so ideologically different. Now, I think that Speaker McCarthy did an incredible job on getting the debt limit bill across the finish line like he did. Nobody thought he could get that done, and they passed a debt limit increase through with Republican votes only, which I got to be honest with you, I've never seen done ever from the time that I've been watching things on Capitol Hill. So I don't doubt Kevin McCarthy's skills as a legislator. I think he's got outstanding skills.
Didn't he sell his soul out though? And John James over there in Macomb County is going to pay the price.
Oh, John.
Well, I'm trying to understand this.
Yeah.
I thought we had a deal here, and suddenly, all of a sudden, we don't have a deal.
Politics.
And McCarthy's being accused of going back on his word.
Joe Biden could be accused of going back on his word too. I mean, the thing is, it's politics. Adolph's right.
Politics.
It's politics.
Well, sure,
And
but if we
that's- and
agreed
that's the
to
way-
something, where's
what
the
they
issue here?
what they
It's
agreed
not the
to
old
was
days.
to lift
It's
the
not
debt,
the old days.
lift the debt limit. What they did not agree to are spending priorities. Spending priorities are a different matter. And quite honestly, there is disagreement within the Republican conference, just like I think there's disagreement within the Democrat caucus in the House. Not to mention the Senate. The last time I checked, there are two houses of Congress. One is the House, one is the Senate. Legislation's got to pass them both.
Yeah.
Now, the Republicans passed the debt limit increase, and the Senate didn't do anything until the last second where they came on board. So at some point, somebody's got to ask, what can Chuck Schumer pass? I don't know what Chuck Schumer can pass. What I give Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans great credit for right now is they're actually spending or passing individual spending bills, something under regular order, something that hasn't been done under Nancy Pelosi ever. They never.
But
ran
where is it
regular
going to
order.
go? The days, Jeff. The days.
Going to go to the Senate.
The days are gone where, you know what, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. We beat each other butt during the day, and then at night we having a drink somewhere. These folks are not doing that. It's like, okay, I don't like you, you don't like me, and you know they playing hardball. They can pass whatever they want to pass until they get the Senate. Now that's a whole different story, you know. So you got a split. You got a House that's controlled by the Republicans, a Senate, which is, you know, you got a couple of Democrats that, you know, they suspect, because they'll vote Republican in a minute. So, you know, I have to give Joe Biden credit for guiding the ship. You know, they can beat him up. They can talk about Hunter Biden. They can say he's too old, but he's been getting the job done.
What needs to be done for there to be an agreement and avoid a potential government shutdown?
That's a very good question. And right now, I can't tell you the answer to that. I think the interesting thing to watch will be how are the spending bills that the Republicans pass in the House, because they are passing spending bills in the House, how are they dealt with in the Senate, or are they dealt with at all in the Senate? Chuck Schumer hasn't been he didn't deal with the debt limit until the last minute. Is he going to pull the same trick on the budget? And my guess is at the end of the day, there's a deal cut at the last minute that gets broad bipartisan support, and you're going to upset people on both extremes. And,
we have a lot of people upset right now.
Guess who the greatest musician and the greatest trickster in the history of the Senate these days is Mitch McConnell. He knows how to play the game. So they play these games and stuff.
So you think this is a game here?
Yeah, it's a game for some of these people. Yeah, it is a game.
So why would Biden and McCarthy be getting into this so-called game right now?
You know,
with the possibility of a government shutdown, according to a report.
You know what? It's like Jamie said, Biden been there 50 years.
Yeah.
He was in the Senate. They play these games. Biden is, you know what? He's running. He's being attacked for being old. He's being attacked. His son. He's being attacked because he didn't acknowledge his son's love child. You know what? You back him into a corner, and you got a guy that's going to fight you. You know, and I'm gonna tell you, if Donald Trump is the nominee, Republican Party is going down. You know, my guy right here says it's not going to happen. We're going to have two different kind of candidates come of November next year. Man, you know, I need to go to Vegas and bet on that.
You kind of said something that triggers a question here, which is, if they're playing games, and this is what goes on, games between Republicans and Democrats, the general public, does it lead people to believe in this day and age where there's so much information that you just go, I don't trust these politicians? And then in comes Donald Trump, who's not a politician.
He is.
And,
But he is.
Well, he is now, but in comes Donald Trump a few years ago, wins and becomes president, and then here we are again. And is that what is going on here, where people are just not trusting politicians?
I think that's absolutely the case, which is one of the reasons why I think Vivek Ramaswamy is such a good candidate, because he is an outsider. And he likes to say I am not on Vivek's payroll in any way, shape, or form. But I think I think he's an outstanding candidate. Now, the thing about the fight between Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden right now is it serves them both. Because people on Joe Biden's base don't like Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin McCarthy's base doesn't like Joe Biden.
But it should be serving the people. It should be serving the people of the United States.
Well, you know what? In their own way, they are. I mean, they also need to be able to maintain control. And the fact of the matter is, I heard the same thing during the debt limit fight, that there was no way that they were going to get the debt limit done. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think there was any way you could get the debt limit done. But they did it. And quite honestly, I credited Congressman John James and Lisa McClain, who I know pretty well, and for how deftly they moved that process forward. Because I do think that they did an incredible job on how they moved it forward. And I expect we'll see something similar on the budget before it's all said and done. Well, although, having been through the last government shutdown when I was working on Capitol, shutdowns are no fun. Nobody has any fun.
Nobody's getting paid.
They certainly are not.
They're not getting paid.
Well, we appreciate your time, Jamie Roe and Adolph Mongo. We appreciate you coming in tonight as we discuss a lot going on in Washington, D.C. We appreciate your time tonight.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.